And let's get back, folks, to Congress and the private planes. House leaders are scaling back their spending for Air Force jets. Understand, I feel like when at the worst time in modern history in our economy, Congress decides to spend $550 million on private jets for themselves after criticizing Wall Street and auto company executives for a private jet, I believe they ought to spend nothing. But they've decided tonight that instead of spending $550 million, they're going to spend $220 million, apparently. Rep. Brad Sherman, a California Democrat, was the guy who chastised auto executives for having jets, and he's one of the main backers of the Jets for Congress plan. What was that gentleman thinking? Joining us now from both sides of the aisle are Congressman Joe Sestak, I'm sorry if I've mispronounced that, Democrat from Pennsylvania, and Tom Price, Republican from Georgia. Let me start with Tom Price because his name is easier to pronounce. Congressman Price, where were you in the original vote on $550 million, and where are you on the issue tonight?
Hey, Dennis, good to talk with you. Thank you so much. I think we've made it halfway where we ought to, and that is cut it from 8 to 4 jets. Now we need to cut it from 4 jets to 0 jets. This is just another example of fiscal irresponsibility run amok in Congress right now, and I hope that Joe agrees with me that we ought to move it from 4 to 0.
Well, Congressman Sestak, how about that? I'm hoping for 0 too. What do you say, sir?
I'm completely in support of going down to 4. The reason I support the other 4 is because the Defense Department did request them, and there are 2 types of planes. Was served in the military for 31 years, a retired Navy admiral. One of these is very similar to a DC-9. It's actually used to ferry numbers of troops, usually those that are going off somewhere, maybe about 80 to 100. The other one is more of a Gulfstream type of vehicle that, for example, when General Petraeus tries to go to one place to another out there in theater, you get them around quickly.
Yes, sir. Congressman Sestak. Is it Sestak? Is that the...
Sestak.
Slovak. Okay. I apologize for interrupting you, sir, but I must point out, I feel like you are missing the big issue here. You are diverting into detail on what kind of private jet it was. You guys look really bad on this, and for criticizing the banks and the car guys for a private jet, would you insist on private jets? I got 3 words for you, sir. First-class airfare. What's so bad about that?
No, I'm not arguing. I'm not going to defend lawmakers using them, but I will defend that gentlemen and gentlewomen like General Petraeus, whose time is of essence in a war, that those men and women do need rapid transport between certain areas. I will not defend lawmakers using them, but I will defend those 4-star generals, and I will defend the Secretary of Defense that needs to use their time to get to certain places rapidly. That's why the Defense Department requested 4,
Let's
not
go
8.
To the other congressman, the Republican. You know, actually, I believe that the Defense Department said that these jets were not needed. They didn't need them, right?
No, only 4 they said were needed.
Dennis, Joe acts like they don't have any planes right now. They got 24 of them right now. No need for 4 more. My goodness gracious, especially in this time of fiscal crisis that we have. What we need to be doing is cutting it to 0. I hope that the Congress will come back and do that when we get back there in September. And then hopefully the Speaker will allow folks the opportunity to actually read a bill before we have to vote on it.
Right. Congressman Sestak, it just seems like Washington has been very concerned with issues of image. You know, they trashed Merrill Lynch for spending $1 million on office decorations, which was like 1/4000th of the money that was handed to Merrill Lynch to keep it alive. And yet now you guys want to spend $220 million on private jets for your junkets. Don't you realize you're going to get clobbered on this?
You know, the Defense Department has come across to Congress, requested 4. Unfortunately, Congress added 4 more in, which I'm totally in agreement with doing away with. These planes that they are replacing are over 20 years old. And do I support them for the senior Defense Department? I actually do.
Are way older than 20 years old. Jack Berkman, would you like to weigh in on this with the congressman? I'm sorry, we don't have...
Let me tell you something. If you want to be a United States Senator in my home state of Pennsylvania, you better come up with arguments better than that, because Arlen Specter is going to crush you. To come on national television and make the argument that Nancy Pelosi wanted these jets not for congressional perks, not for congressional privilege, but for use by the military. Sir, you should be ashamed. You are deceiving the American people. If you want to run statewide, you need better arguments than that. That is wrong. That is wrong. Look, we can have a lot of disagreements.
If I might, Dennis, if I might.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I'm not ashamed of my 31 years of naval service.
That's not the issue.
If I could. leading men and women into harm's way.
That's not the issue.
If I could, I watched our 4-star generals leading men and women into harm's way.
Not the issue.
And the Defense Department asked for these planes for their use. I will defend that until hell freezes over, because quite frankly, you can make fun of our service members over there that have risen from lieutenants up to be 4-star generals. But, sir, kindly, please, understand that this was a request for generals who are in combat to be able to go from one place to another, and those that are leading large troops and formations here, not do I ever support them for lawmakers.
All right,
and I just wanted to make sure that you make sure those details are important.
In here, sir. And Congressman, let me just tell you, even in that case, I just feel like the military, they must have plenty of jets all over the place. I don't know why they need a new Gulfstream. Keith Boykin, go ahead. We only have 30 seconds.
I have a question for Tom Price down in Georgia. I want to know, did he support the F-22 funding, which President Obama tried to cut, but many members of the Congress and the House and the Senate Republicans tried to put more funding into that, which the Defense Department did not request. Where were you, Tom Price, on that, Congressman?
Yeah, I supported the F-22 because I think it's vital for our national defense. But on this issue right here, it's a classic bait and switch that Joe Sestak just pulled. It talks about one issue and then brings up whether or not we support the troops and respect the generals in the field. That's not the issue.
All right, I'm sorry, Congressman. We have a hard break, and I've got to get out. Thanks, guys. We are back in 2.